the Empire of Man recovers from the Great War against Chaos, those in the old world celebrate Magnus's victory. But the Dark Gods are planning their revenge. The safety of the Empire is now threatened by a new enemy who dares to strike at Magnus himself. The fate of the Empire lies in our hands. If Magnus dies, the Empire dies with him.
Alright, hello everyone, Loremaster of Sotek here, and oh boy, do we got news today. So as you can see from the trailer I just played, Chaosbane has put out the big news today that their game has gone up for pre-order, which is super exciting. We've also gotten an official release date, which is of course the 4th of July, I think it was, 4th of June? It was June, because it's the 6th month. So it's going to be out the first couple of days of summer, which is going to be just in time for those of you who will be going on summer vacation from your schools, whether you're in college or younger or older, who knows. But in any event, so let's go over all of the basic info, and then I'm going to dive into what has been revealed by the full release trailer, and we'll go from there. So, real quick, just because I would feel bad not going over this, because I am very, very, very excited about this project. These are the different editions that are coming out. It's actually pretty cheap for the larger editions compared to most games. You know, if you look at a game like even Total War, you know, you have your collector's editions being like $150 sometimes, or other games can get even more expensive. It just, like, a lot of games go up exponentially for each edition. Whereas here we have, you have regular classic edition, which is $60, which is totally normal for a full video game. Then you also have the deluxe edition, which includes a pet pack, an emote pack, and a gold boost, as well as I think some experience buffs and other crap like that. Then you have the Magnus edition for digital, which comes with a season pass, which has apparently an exclusive quest, and I believe means you're going to get the 3 DLCs that are apparently already planned as part of it. And then there's the physical retail edition of the Magnus edition, which comes with this really nice leather book, which is this thing, which I think is going to come with some artwork and maybe some additional lore. You know which one I'm going to be getting. Which, while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and pop over to the store and check out the Chaosbane store, because it's been updated. You can't pre-order on Steam just yet, because apparently they're working out some kinks, but we can look at some updated information. So, some of the things that they've put out is that they've went ahead and described some of the replay value. So we already know there's a full story mode, there's a boss rush mode, which sounds awesome. There's lots of dungeons, regular updates, so they're hopefully going to be supporting the game on a very regular basis, and with 10 different difficulty levels, kind of like what you would expect from Diablo. They've already confirmed over 70 monsters, which, I mean, if we're just looking at the monsters split across the 4 gods, you're looking at roughly 20 types of creatures per god, which is pretty awesome. And we also know that they, of course, have Beastmen in there. I've already seen a clip of a Jabberslythe being in the game, so they're one-upping Total War on that one. But over 180 different abilities split between the 4 characters, which is great. For the hack and slash storyline, they've got Mike Lee doing it, who's written some fantastic Warhammer Fantasy books. So I'm totally glad that they brought in a Black Library author to help with the story. And of course, it's got a mature content description, which I'm so glad for, that it's going to be rated M. It seems to be the case, because that means they're going to be really going ham on it. So with that kind of basic info out of the way, and for prices, I think it's literally like it goes up $10 for each version. I think it's like 50, or is that right? Yeah, I think 50 for the classic, and then it goes like 60, 70, 80 or something like that. But I was looking at it on their website, because you can just go to chaosbane.com or what have you, and it just kind of gets straight to the point. I apologize if you hear the dog barking. She's interested in something. But if you've been around here, you should be used to dog barks. So looking at the trailer now for some interesting information. First of all, we're getting some really nice looks at the zones. Things are looking really, really good. That's artwork from Warhammer Online Age of Reckoning. That's funny. The game is looking really fantastic so far. I'm pleased with the way it seems to continue growing as far as the graphics are concerned. It looks really, really on par for what you would expect from a solid Diablo-esque game. And of course, here we finally get our first look at the Wood Elf, who is of course a Way Watcher or a Way Stalker. And the Dwarf we've seen little clips of. He hasn't gotten like a full trailer yet, but we do get a good look at him here, and then later on in the trailer, we see the two of them again. We've already seen Alontir and the Empire Soldier, which is a very muscly dwarf. He's a little not as wide as they tend to be, but I love the look of all these guys. And also, I'm really excited to see the different ways you can customize them. One thing I've already seen mentioned on their Twitter is that, like, some of the gear you can get, like for the dwarf, he has epic loot drops that are different types of beards that only he can equip, so you can like have facial features as an equipment, which is pretty awesome. The effects are looking really good for the game. It doesn't look super overwhelming. Looks like the wizard, the high elf wizard, definitely has some pretty flashy effects, but nothing, you know, it's not like complete over the top. So I'm glad that everything looks very epic, but you know, you can still tell what's going on. That's one thing that you can sometimes see in games, is they go a little too ham, which can be kind of rough, but things are looking really, really great. I've also seen different types of weapons, to the extent that for the soldier, they've added in he can get a rifle. So I'm not sure if that means you'll be able to like completely change the way he plays from a melee tank class to a ranged DPS sort of focus. But here, looking at all the demons of Slaanesh look really, really good. I'm so glad they're not holding back, and that there's plenty of blood effects. All the demons look exactly like you'd want to. They look grotesque and terrifying. You can see a Seeker there, and you can see a Chaosbane of Slaanesh back here with all of its different bondage equipment and crab claws. It's looking so good. And the thing that this trailer talks about, that it just sort of, it throws at you, but it doesn't really focus too much on, but from a lore perspective I find very interesting, is that the story here, when you listen through the trailer, is focused on the forces of chaos doing a plot to assassinate Magnus the Pious, which is a huge deal, considering that this game takes place right after Azavar Kul was defeated. Which, I will say that I do sincerely hope we get some kind of notes about Azavar Kul. Maybe we get to see him, or fight an incarnation of him, or something along those lines, because Azavar Kul was the biggest bad since, or before Archaon. He was the 12th ever chosen, and the one that Magnus, of course, got his massive claim to fame by defeating. But I'm very, very curious what's going to be the overarching plot that's going to require us to travel so much of the world to defeat someone who's trying to murder Magnus, because, like the game says, if Magnus the Pious were to have died at this point in the history of the Warhammer world, the Empire almost immediately would have collapsed in on itself. Because what was so significant about Magnus the Pious, I'll just let this repeat in the background, but what was so significant about Magnus compared to any other emperor, to be quite frank, other than Sigmar, was that Magnus was the first man who was able to completely unify the emperor in hundreds of years. Ever since Mandred Skavenslayer, which that's exactly what happened with Mandred, actually, is after the Black Plague, years before this incident, the Skaven, of course, came up and invaded the Empire after they unleashed the Black Plague, which killed most of the population. And when they did that, Mandred Skavenslayer managed to not only defeat the Skaven, but because he was able to do that, he was able to unify all of the Empire under his banner, and he became the Emperor. However, Mandred didn't get to live out his full life and finish repairing the Empire and get it all unified and everyone back on the same page. He ended up being assassinated by a assassin sent by the Council of 13, a Clanetian assassin. He was killed. And when he died, the Empire collapsed into infighting, essentially, as all of the different elector counts could not agree on a new emperor. And that led into a series of events where there were a lot of emperors, the time of the 3 emperors, and also led to Vlad von Karstein being able to make his big move, and that led into the Vampire Wars, which made the Vampire Counts into such a big threat they were, because the Vampire Counts Vlad would not have been nearly as successful a threat to the Empire if it hadn't been for the fact that he didn't have a unified empire as his opponent. He had a very not unified empire where everybody was trying to be emperor and nobody was standing next to each other, and it was just a complete mess. That has basically been the ultimate problem for the Empire since its inception, is that an emperor will take over and then they die or something happens and nobody is able to unify the empire, and it falls into infighting and bad things happen for the next couple hundred years. I mean, even just looking at the Vampire Wars, it should have ended after Vlad died, but after Vlad was killed, nobody was willing to basically pursue after the fleeing vampire counts, because a lot of the elector counts and the different generals who had helped didn't want the Prince of Altdorf, or the Prince of the Reichland, basically, succeeding in wiping out the vampires permanently, because they were like, no, if we put our troops under his rule to hunt down these vampires, then, he's going to be emperor and we're going to be SOL, so there's no way we're doing that. We're not going to chase these things down. And because of that, they ended up not dealing with the vampire threat when they should have, and that's how we got Conrad von Karstein having his own personal war, and then after Conrad died, Manfred showed up and had his own personal war. And if the Empire hadn't been a complete mess and had been unified under a single ruler, then they could have sniped all of that out immediately. So the reason I'm waxing super lyrical about all of this is because I want to make it clear how important Magnus was, in that he unified the Empire into a single force that was capable of defeating an ever-chosen of chaos. And by doing that, he forged a really close relationship with the dwarves who were fighting at Kislev, because he fought side by side with the Dwarven King before Thorgrim, and Thorgrim Grudgebearer was also there at that war. So he made a very good, strong impression on the dwarves, and he made a very good, strong impression on the Kislevites, who were fighting in their capital because Prague had been annihilated, and the Kislevites were on their last step. Death was coming for them, and there was little they could do about it until the Empire showed up to save the day. So he forged a really close alliance relationship with Kislev. He forged a very close alliance relationship with the dwarves of the World's Edge Mountains. He also unified the entirety of the Empire, and Magnus forged a close relationship with the High Elves, because that was the first time that the elves had come to the aid of the Empire like that, with Teclis and his 2 other Archmage buddies. And Magnus was the one who, where all humans prior to that point had been scared of magic, didn't trust it, wanted nothing to do with it. They believed purely in faith, steel, and gunpowder and wanted nothing to do with magic. Magnus was the one who saw the devastation in Kislev and at Prague, and he went up to the elves and was like, listen, normally I wouldn't ask you guys this, but we need your help. And he basically convinced Teclis to establish the colleges of magic. he also saw all the Dwarven war machines and was the one that went from just having gunpowder as like a very niche but rare thing in the Empire. He founded the Colleges of Magic, he founded the Imperial School of Engineering, and he founded the Imperial Gunnery School. Like, Magnus did a ton for making the Empire into the Empire that we all know and love in the modern canon of the lore that Karl Franz inherits and leads during the final days of Warhammer's world. So for this game to take place at such a critical fork in the road for the Empire and for the plot to be revolving around Magnus makes me so excited. Because one of the things I was genuinely worried about with this game was that they weren't going to do anything with Magnus, despite the fact that he is the most important character ever in Warhammer from that time period. Like, there's a good 500-year gap where Magnus is just the center of everything that happened. And it makes sense that these four order races would ally to do everything in their power to protect Magnus and keep him alive. You know, you have a loyal servant of the Emperor being a Empire soldier. You have a High Elf mage or Archmage who likely would have been summoned to assist because the High Elves have a really good relationship with Magnus and they are determined to help them out. Because from a High Elf, from a typical Elven point of view of being a little selfish, you know, they view the Empire as a bulwark against the forces of chaos. If the Empire were to fall to chaos, then the Elves would basically be surrounded with no potential allies and they would be screwed. So it makes sense that the High Elves would send a gifted mage to help against a plot trying to take down Magnus. Then we have a Dwarf Slayer, which makes perfect sense. You know, the Dawi have always had a good relationship with the Empire thanks to Sigmar, but it's been reaffirmed thanks to the efforts of Magnus the Pious. And there's no way the dwarves would stand for such a plot. I'm curious to find out why this dwarf is a slayer, because dwarves don't become slayers willy-nilly. It's only because of a great shame. Becoming a slayer is a really big deal and a very personal decision. A part of me is a little they went with a slayer instead of a little bit more of an open-ended dwarf that has some more like customizable options and stuff, because the thing with slayers is you're pretty much locked into a fighting at least half naked and with no ranged weapons unless they're throwing axes and just mass melee madness. So we'll have to. I love his little whirlwind attack there. You see that? He's got chains on his axes that let him spin out wider. That's hilarious. But and then of course there's an Azrai or a Wood Elf here, which also makes perfect sense because just like Ulthuan, the Wood Elves are a race that kind of keep their pulse on nearby nations and do everything in their power to stop the forces of chaos. And the Wood Elves would have been heavily invested in making sure that the Empire recovered after being assaulted by Azavar Kul, because if the forces of chaos had wiped out the Empire, Athel-Loren is like one of the primary places the Dark Gods want corrupted and destroyed. So Athel-Loren knows better than anybody that if the hammer's going to fall after the Empire is defeated, it's going to fall on them. So really like the characters we're seeing. I'm very, very interested to hear more information about all four characters, but especially the two we don't know anything about yet. So I can't wait to learn all their information. I hope we have a really good story dealing with this Magnus the Pious plot. I hope there's something to do with Azavar Kul, and I really hope that all the characters have a really good personal narrative. It'd be nice to see them have individual stories that are fleshed out as you play through the game, you know, to kind of reward you for going through the experience. But I've been talking for almost 20 minutes, if not longer than, longer than, for a for a 1 minute and 20-second trailer. So thank you all for watching. I'm going to get out of here and get to work on some other stuff. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, and if you pre-order the game, you'll be able to play in the private beta in March and April. So there's a beta in March and there's a beta in April, and you can play in both of them so long as you pre-order, I think, any edition of the game. So once again, thank you all for watching. I will be covering this game incredibly in depth as any and all information about it is released. See here, you can see the Magnus edition. Oh yeah, and if you get the Magnus edition, I guess you get 4 days early access. And some special helmets and it looks like if you pre-order anything, I think you get the XP bonus and special helmets, which I don't really care about that. I'm just going to get the most expensive one because I love this game, and I love the way this game is looking. I love that it's cross-platform. I love that it's Warhammer Fantasy and it's not the end times. It's just good old Warhammer Fantasy, and I will do everything in my power to keep Warhammer Fantasy alive and thriving. So the game looks great. I'm going to buy the most expensive version because I want all the goodies. And, of course, I want to support the guys behind Chaosbane to the best of my ability. So, once again, thank you all for watching. I will be back later with more junk. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to go check out the trailer for yourselves over on Chaosbane's YouTube channel. And be sure to visit their website, chaosbane.com, for more information about how you can pre-order the game, especially if you're going to play it on console, PS4 or Xbox, which, just a reminder, is cross-platform and couch co-op. So if you don't have a super high-end PC, but you have a PS4 or an Xbox One, you can go ahead and get those systems, and you can still play with me or other people on PC. Isn't that awesome? So be sure to visit their website to figure out where or how you can pick up and or pre-order your own physical copy of the game, or you can just buy it on Steam, but I always like physical copies. So anyway, thank you all for watching. See you guys later. Bye.